to pull it through. There's a lot of pressure on them.
It comes down, or a lot of it comes down to the pick and ban phase, especially. I think you should ban Aurelion Sol. I'm glad ROX Tigers finally agree after they learned their lesson. And that's actually why they're in this situation in the first place. Another big pick in that last game was Alistar. Afromu was all over the place in the early game, ganking multiple lanes. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Alistar first pick for Gorilla because it's such an impactful support for both these two guys.
Yeah, and I actually like the fact that the Tigers banned out Syndra, mostly because I was not very impressed with Kuro's performance on it the game prior.
Wow.
So I want to see him on more of a control utility mid laner, and the first pick, that is Elise for Peanut.
Interesting choice. Of course, as you highlighted, banning out Syndra is because they do not trust Kuro to win the game on it, so they don't want to first pick it, and they don't want to hand it over to CLG either. But first picking jungler, when Rek'Sai and so many other strong picks like Lee Sin is still available, Olaf is here as well, one of the best picks for Xmithie. You're not really taking a whole lot away from him.
No, certainly not. And it's been very standard bans actually for both these two, with Aurelion Sol maybe not quite in the pool. Very interesting first pick.
I want Alistar here.
But we'll see how CLG respond. You mentioned the Alistar is available. The Caitlyn's up as well. Like, there's so much open. Everyone's going to get their signature picks with the exception of Huhi. They take the mouse, they take the Caitlyn.
Oh no.
This is because there's so many mid lane bans. They want to try and pinch the champion pool of Kuro even further. He does have the Victor, which is one of his best picks. He can just sit and wave clear.
One of the things that Gorilla loves is Tahm Kench, and Malzahar being picked first can be punished. There's a lot of available options that ROX could go with to punish this Malzahar, but Kuro highlighting that, or he has the Victor, yeah. So Victor gonna be able to just wave clear, do what Kuro needs to do, and let Prey, Peanut, and Smeb carry the game.
And as much as I agree with the whole Tahm Kench actually being a good pick here, it seems like Gorilla just values what he considers the best support in the meta, Alistar, and also take it away from Afmu. Talked a lot about it, you know, for potential first pick, first rotation. It is locked in very early. CLG very clearly expect this game to go pretty far into like the 30-40 minute mark, because they're picking a lot of scaling here, and with the weak early game of ROX Tigers.
That's an interesting pick because there's not a lot of synergy in mid lane with it.
Well, I like the Olaf there from Xmithie. If you can play aggressive and into Peanut, but like you mentioned, not that much gank pressure as far as the overall lanes go. Bard though for Afromu is always a good pick here. We expected him to kind of get onto a playmaker, and he does have one here.
Yeah, Bard is one of these picks where you can either win the game as a support or you can completely lose the game as a support. If you're not hitting these crucial ultis in the late game, then it's very hard for you to have value compared to something like an Alistar. But if you nail those great ultis into bindings, you can create so many kills for your team. It looked very late game focused with Caitlyn and Malzahar, but now with Olaf Bard, there's a lot more early game punch, and especially once you hit level 6 in the mid lane, while the synergy might not be the greatest between the Malzahar and his jungler, level 6, stun that Victor with Olaf flying in there, that's a kill.
Yep, and CLG gonna decide on their final pick here, and this entire tournament, Gnar and Poppy have been really big up in the top lane, and this is the final comp for ROX Tigers, and they have a super late game scaling team composition, and they're going back to it.
And honestly, just give me a Poppy here again. Yes, your early game will not be the greatest, but you just TP out of that lane, you try and make plays on the bottom side where you have Caitlyn, Bard into a melee support, and then Poppy against some of these champions like Jhin and Victor late game. They can't escape, they can't run away from Poppy. She will get to them, and she will CC with the ulti and just sit in front of something like a Jhin.
And it feels like very safe drafts for both these teams. Jhin is about as safe as it gets as far as available remaining picks for ROX, and CLG, they just give Darshan the pick that's been overperforming despite a lot of lane deficits across the tournament so far. It feels like both teams are on comfort, both teams have the power in the right hands. Afromu versus Gorilla should be an amazing little matchup to watch here, but it's kind of what we expect with everything on the line. This is a must-win game for both teams. One of these teams is going home. We could have a second #1 seed from a region. The tournament favorite in ROX Tigers go home. This is just
insane.
Crazy. It's insane.
Almost don't want to talk about it before the game is over, because you're just like, no, there's no way that can happen. But it can. CLG has already beaten them once. Had Aurelion Sol, not the case here. But a Malzahar, if he gets an early push, Huhi is a mid laner who likes to roam. Kuro is a mid laner who likes to roam as well and actually impact other lanes. So if you get an advantage there in that mid lane, you can start going to side lanes.
Yep. We're about to get into game here. And also, I want to bring up that Peanut, he only played one other Elise game this tournament. This is his favorite champion. He considers himself the best Elise in the world. We're going to see if his Elise can carry ROX Tigers onto the quarters.
Gonna have to show it here, but don't forget to weigh in on Twitter. Hashtag ROX win if you think the Tigers will make it. And you know who the crowd's cheering for. Get the hashtag CLG win the crowd. Spelled it out nice and easy for you guys. This is it. One of these teams at the end of this game will have heads hung very low. One of them will be very happy. CLG could do Albus Nocturne a favor as well. If they win, they get second. Albus Nocturne claim first despite the loss before. ROX will have to play a tiebreaker for first if they win here. But no matter what, this is it. One game, one team going home, one team moving on.
And let's look at what a team like CLG wants to do in a game like this. When you have Bard as a support, you have the ability to roam and really make a lot of plays, but so does Alistar. So it's actually very important for CLG to have control of that bottom side, keep Gorilla locked in that lane. Don't allow him to leave as well, because that's where he really shines. When he can go mid lane and go into enemy jungle and force more aggressive plays. If you keep him with double range setup in that bottom lane, you have the advantage on that bottom side, and you have TP from Poppy that you spend towards the bottom lane to look for these fights. Then you can actually contain the ROX Tigers bottom lane, and that slows them down a lot, because then it's all about Peanut really doing well in the early game.
Yep. And early game, I'm a little bit worried for CLG. Again, not a lot of synergy in top lane. That Poppy not going to be able to really coordinate a gank up there against a blue side Gnar. It's too easy, again, to turtle that side of the map, place a ward in the tri-brush, deny any sort of gank attempts. And Malzahar can't roam early.
Nope.
So, I mean, Malzahar in mid lane, how do you really gank for him until he's level 6?
You don't. Honestly, you farm, you set up vision, and then if you want to look for anything, you look bot lane. You look for that bottom lane. That's where you're going to put the pressure. Unless Gnar is randomly just pushing all the way up to the tower, and you have vision of the enemy jungle, but that's not going to happen. Smeb is one of the absolute best players in the world. He knows how to position in lane.
Well, I love this as well. Quick look at the Keystone Masteries. Double Ignite, double Thunderlords in the bottom lane. Things could get real spicy real quick, but we'll start with Huhi and Kuro here in the mid lane. Expecting just a lot of safe farming. We'd be interested to see where the junglers go. Where does Peanut put his pressure? What can Smithy get done? We talk about early games for both these teams. They've looked a little shaky here and there. CLG going to have to fight fairly without Aurelion Sol versus ROX this time. Gorilla taking damage, but Afro trading back. Double range here looking decent in the early stages of the lane.
Always sucks for an Alistar, level 1. You can't really do anything, but just take the poke. Does have some minions always being pulled towards Afromu. But now it's just a big race for Afromu to get level 2 and then see if he can go a bit aggressive. Jungle pathing is always interesting very early on. Standard from Peanut on a jungler who needs blue buff early. Grump into blue into red. So now he gets level 3. He can either gank or counter gank, or he can just continue farming by getting that red buff as his third camp. It's very, very important. So you're always able to be active on the map, and Smithy is going to pick up his red, but he's going to be very low and not really able to gank. Yep. Right now.
One of the reasons that he could be doing this start for Smithy, but hold on. Oh no, Peanut.
Big save. He sees the summon as well. Gorilla goes in for it. Locked up again. Cocoon in for ROX Tigers. And first blood goes to Peanut.
We just talked about getting that red buff third camp and top lane gank.
Smeb actually getting chased down here, but he does have flash. Bat wall. He does make it over. And he gets out scot-free.
That's Darshan, not Dyrus. Not used to that flash.
Didn't want to follow, but man, that was so important for the ROX Tigers. We talked about how important it is to get an advantage bot lane for CLG, and then it's just a very simple path from Peanut, getting red buff level 3, walking bot lane, and instant engage onto Styx here. Let's see if he could flash, because it's a flash into the headbutt, and he actually has time to react. Problem is, you haven't seen the jungler yet. So normally you don't want to just flash instantly, because, well, then you just wasted a flash almost. But when you see that engage coming, level 3 gank is possible. You almost just have to play it safe and flash yourself.
Yep.
Otherwise, this happens. And Smeb, while he did push up top lane, was able to flash the wall and stay alive.
Yep. And in mid lane, it's pretty interesting how Hui has elected to play the lane because Victor needs a bigger buy than most other mid laners. He needs that 1,250, whereas Malzahar, he just needs that lost chapter. So if you really attack Victor's mana pool early on and you make it difficult for him to farm, you can really mess with his recall timings.
Actually going for a spare Doran's ring as well, so it favors maybe a bit more aggression. Going to keep his advantage up for a little longer, perhaps in the lane, as Stixay does return. Was behind in CS, but he's okay now, and definitely doesn't want to get caught again by Peanut.
And now we got to see Smithy. Look at that Alistar with no flash. Look at the Jhin with no flash in the bottom lane. Easy targets for him if he wants to gank once his Ghost is available one more time. He can even potentially wait for Aphromoo to hit 6. Might just be in time where he can still engage without flashes. Peanut is down here again. He knows there's a high chance Smithy's trying to gank the bottom lane. He wants to add a little bit of safety for the team.
Yeah, and one of the things that Peanut is doing is you notice the tier 2 boots, the Sorcerer penetration boots. He's saying, I want to get aggressive. I'm going to go quick. I'm going to cause a lot of chaos, and you're not going to keep up with me.
And that's a good adaptation because ROX Tigers have fallen behind so often. Every single game they played, they fall behind in the early game. And one of the reasons is that Peanut has not been able to like dominate early on. He hasn't out-jungled anyone if you look at the first 15, 20 minutes. Now he first picked Elise. With more junglers available, he first picked it because he wanted that champion for the early game power, for the early game ganks. Pulled off one.
Just trying with a nice trade there in top, though, as Gorilla's back in mid lane, but passive up for Malzahar, going to make that real tricky to try and get down, and Kuro playing a little too far back there.
Always got to be careful, though, with the Malzahar passive. Gives you a false sense of security because, you know, it does block the CC for 0.25 seconds. But what Alistar will do, he's just going to headbutt, break the passive, wait 0.25 seconds, and then he's going to Q and actually knock you off. But does give you time to flash away if you are the Malzahar. And let's see towards the bottom lane. Smithy is on the bottom side, not in a position to gank because the lane also is not really pushed on the side of ROX Tigers. They're happy keeping it towards their tower.
Yep. And they're just playing pretty defensively right now and expect to see that happen if Peanut's not on that side of the map. And Peanut wants blood up in top lane.
Smeb actually not level 6, but does well. Darshan down. Darshan keeping healthy with that corrupting potion, but Peanut's being very patient here. Gonna try and make something happen. Smeb baiting a little too much, perhaps. Gets him to have ulti. Peanut does make it, but no! Gets it with Darshan! Able to claim the kill. Peanut looking for the trade. Does flash for it, and will get it.
Because of Peanut, Smeb actually hit level 6 later because Peanut was absorbing the experience.
Look at the bottom lane now. Smithy's down here. No flashes from the ROX Tigers. Aphromoo is only level 5. No ulti from him to stop that tower from dealing damage. They need the mid lane to roam, and Hui just pushed the mid lane. ROX Tigers should call this. They know he's roaming down. Smeb also has teleport. Darshan does not.
Here comes the dive, perhaps. We'll have to see what happens. They're not going to go for it yet. Gorilla stunned against the wall, and they might pull out of it. It's
too risky.
Could consider taking a buff instead. You can see pings on the red side, but Smithy with his counter jungle instead. CLG do play it safe there.
And the thing we have to remember with that gank from Peanut before, where he was hiding in the bush, they didn't have full information on Smithy. Yes, we can see both sides, but because Smeb is overextended without flash, in case Olaf shows up for a gank, Peanut is here to counter gank. So that is one option with this. The second one is that Darshan all-ins, and Peanut then goes for the kill. And this was obviously not the plan.
Yeah, that was not the plan at all. They wanted Smeb to get level 6 there and then do this setup, and then Peanut doesn't even need to burn flash. But because Peanut was siphoning XP, unfortunately Darshan was able to get level 6 and kill Smeb.
Well, 1,000 gold up now for ROX Tigers. Actually just under, as that's awkward. Voidling going to pick it up. Hui with some nice little play there. Does move over and get himself the blue buff. He's starting to push in and try and roam around, but Kuro does have that first upgrade with the Hex Score, so yeah, it's really going to be that much better at clearing up those waves. But Peanut's caught here. Smithy and Afro find him and they take him down.
What a sneaky roam. Stixay came back from base, but then Smithy and Aphromoo just snuck in there, hid in the bush, and then suddenly Peanut with no flash, he had no idea they were there. We didn't have no idea.
I actually got surprised.
Like, what are you guys doing there?
Good Dragon now. CLG going to move over and try and take this Ocean Drake. Peanut's mistake. Going to give CLG parity on the gold lane and possibly the objective as well.
Well, it's hard to really call that a mistake from Peanut because he didn't expect anyone to invade, with Stixay not even being in the bottom lane at the point or at the time. He just came down from base, so they clearly did not expect Aphromoo and Smithy to sneak in there. And that's just a very, very good call from CLG. And some of the plays we like to see when Aphromoo is roaming a lot. When he's on a support who can roam, he can set up a lot of plays with Smithy and Gorilla.
Very nice,
Not quite sure what he's planning there. Doesn't have level 6. Looks like they're just trying to get some vision secure. They're going to pick up the Scuttle Crab.
Could also try and bait out a flash. If Peanut does show and Alistar combos forward, you kind of have to flash it instantly. Good stun from Aphromoo. stops everything, and it is dead even in gold in this game here. Both comps have quite good scaling, honestly. Victor, Jin, Malzahar, Caitlyn.
Wonder what the catch here, actually. Who he kind of scouting out, but doesn't have any friends right now. Smithy also doing a nice job in the jungle matchup right now. Peanut did, of course, go for that pretty long-winded top lane gank, and Smithy's up 15 CS or so, and Olaf should farm a little faster as he gets more items. So feels like things are going well for CLG's jungler, Peanut, despite the great early plays falling a bit behind in farm. But other than that, the lanes are pretty much dead even. It's good that CLG are keeping up in farm, but ROX, again, they're more than happy to play this slower pace of game. And it's funny that we mentioned it before. Peanut was supposed to be the thing that plugged the hole in the boat, which was ROX Tiger's early game. It hasn't been the case here at Worlds despite domestic success, but if Peanut has a good game and can kind of get things to the point where they want to be anyway, that's great here for ROX, and this is how they want to approach the game. CLG going to try and disrupt as best they can. Smithy constantly moving into this jungle.
And it's a pretty scary moment for ROX Tigers right now because Malzahar has ulti. We've seen some LCK mid laners get very early QSS against it. It is not there right now, so Kuro is constant at risk of just getting ulted and ganked and dies. Aphromo has ulti in the bottom lane against something like a Jin. Force a flash very easily, so there are a very good CC setup for CLG in multiple lanes and an early game jungler who can punish someone who gets locked down. So it's a bit of a tricky moment for the ROX Tigers where they're really respecting and they're afraid of what can happen if Smithy shows up in the lane.
Yep. And as we progress into the middle stage of the game, the first and second core items for both teams is probably going to benefit ROX Tigers a little bit more. But then when it reaches the 3-item point, that's when Malzahar really just becomes like a different champion. He has the Rylai's, Morella, Namicon, and then he generally has the Void Staff. Also at that point, one thing CLG has that ROX does not is immunity to neutral objectives like Dragon and Baron, because Malzahar at 30% CDR, the Void Links just keep living and you just get everything for free.
Definitely agree, and it's super, super important for CLG to do well very early and then get past the mid game where you also need Caitlyn to get multiple items before she becomes a big carry in the late game. But because ROX now has to respect the CC in all these lanes, they can't actually play aggressive. They can't really roam around, they can't really force anything. They're kind of waiting for CLG to make a play and then try and react. Seems like something will happen around mid lane.
ROX Tigers certainly good at damage control as Afro and Gorilla having a battle, but they're looking for Stixay, who he did ghost his way over here. And Smithy's waiting for Kuro, finds him with one axe. Ghost pop by Victor. CLG, I like what they're doing here, positioning to try and find a catch, but ROX are doing an excellent job of playing defense when they know they need to, and this is maybe what was missing from their early game. It's such intelligent play right now.
And I love the positioning from Aphromo. If you play Bard yourself, just stay around this wall here, because whenever you spot someone walk into river, you're going to put up the portal.
Gorilla, no, could be in a bit of trouble. That's enough damage. Peanut, though, gets the kill. It will be a trade, and now Stixay caught without his flash. Flashes instantly and dodges the bullets here. Does get hit by one, but not going to matter. 1-4 in trade in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and I think that was a beautiful salvage by CLG. Picking up Gorilla there was absolutely huge, and they even trade summoners better than ROX Tigers.
Yeah, just when you praise a player, he actually gets caught out though. End up being a 1-for-1, so good for CLG. Let's see what happens on top. Smeb is fighting a Grump, but now he's fighting multiple CLG members as well.
Yeah, he's got Hui and Smithy on his tail. Does have his flash. First axe hits, but ROX actually now rotated around. Hui flashes in. They're going to try and take it up, but now he has to move out of the way. They're going for a Peanut. Nails the Malzahar, and Smithy going to try and clean it up. They will get one, but Gorilla's here as well. Smithy ghosting as best he can as Afro's here, but it's not enough to save them. Peanut not stunned either. And Afro's got his ulti. They can maybe get out here, but there's another catch. Good ult from Afro, but it nails Darshan as well. They will escort him off to safety. Afro can only save one teammate, though.
Yeah, and that was really good by the ROX Tigers there. Not a lot of people may know, but Victor's ultimate on cast cancels channels. So his ultimate is indeed a channel, and so I don't think they were expecting as many members of ROX to show up as they did, and so that's what ended up punishing CLG here. So you see the flash come out of Hui, the Void Link even out of position, and that is a huge part of Malzahar's damage early. And then Smeb able to live for long enough for Kuro and Peanut to just dish out the damage. Aphromo tries to flash, but it was in vain as nothing could be salvaged there.
Really good for the ROX Tigers. Again, they were playing very reactive. They were kind of waiting for certain items. We have QSS for Kuro now. We talked about it just before, how many LCK mid laners love to rush it against Malzahar, because you gotta constantly respect that. Engage. Now he can actually step forward in the lane and instant wave cleared with the laser. He doesn't have to be so afraid of Hui just splashing on him and locking him down, and a jungler showing up. So that's very important for the mid lane pressure for Kuro. And mid lane really is the lane that kind of binds everything together. If you can't push out mid lane, your mid laner can never roam first, and that always gives pressure to the other mid laner and the other team, because they can roam to side lanes, they can get into your jungle, and then suddenly your jungler gets less farm, your laners have to constantly be scared. So it's super, super important that Kuro can challenge the wave in mid, and you see him already push it out now to the tower, and suddenly he can move towards the river and start contesting some of this vision.
CLG are here though to try and take their second Drake of the game, albeit an extra ocean if they can secure it, but lots of vision battles back and forth in the right side of the river. Blue buff for Malz might make pushing a little easier, but Kuro pretty efficient himself. He got his last blue stolen actually, so timing should be a little off there. And who he gonna play up with that blue buff? CLG, how aggressively do they want to collapse on this objective? Darshan back down again, gonna wander down to maybe pressure for a dive here.
Kuro has QSS though, so they can't just hope to try to press R on him and, you know, gimp him right out of the fight. So Kuro playing pretty far back, sniffing that out. Definitely very good. They know that Darshan probably can't be anywhere else.
Yeah, and CLG need to think about the steps before they dive. You need to have vision in the enemy jungle before you go for such a risky tower dive. ROX now might actually try and fly. Hui has no flash.
Great damage there, but that's maybe going to poke him out. Again, TP's ready for these top laners, but Smev actually wandered down to the mid lane to try and join this fight. Afro doing his best to save his teammates, but Hui relatively healthy. Pink chugged the potion, you can see it running there, and might actually stay to try and take this fight. Afro's donating him health as well.
Gotta remember, there's mana on the Malzahar, there's barely any mana on the Victor, so that means Kuro doesn't really want to join a fight. Might just have one laser and one Q, and that's it. CLG, they know that, so they're actually starting it, looking for that potential team fight.
They go for it, Gorilla goes in, actually finds Afro. Bullets there from Jids, enough of that snipe. Darshan's here, kicks one out, but Smithy now in the thick of it, does take the portal out to safety, but CLG, they don't get the Drake and they just lost Afro. Big misstep there around the area.
Second time here where Afro puts up the portal, but he's not able to get into the portal before the combo from the Alistar. And as a Bard, you just die instantly. You are so squishy. Really, really important again for the ROX Tigers. They're able to get certain advantages right now. And they are actually in the mid game, but they're strong.
Oh, Gorilla again with a great combo after the flash. Hui knocked out by the Cocoon's gonna be a kill. Kuro takes it down as Darshan now in trouble. Prey gonna shoot him to pieces. Gorilla lives through it, and ROX Tiger's starting to turn it on.
Yeah, one of the things that is important to note about Hui right now is he can't play that far forward in the lane without any sort of mobility.
We'll catch again there, but Sticks, they could be problems. Duggar did get a snipe with an ultimate to take out Gorilla, but now gonna try and turn it onto Prey. Q not gonna hit. Neither is that snare, and Kuro poking down, had just enough for one more laser, and Prey looking aggressive, had the full shot. Stixxay respects it and plays back.
And we see again why Alistar is such an important support pick. If you have playmaking supports like Gorilla, he's able to set up plays like this. They know there's no flash for Hui. He flashes in, he gets a combo, followed by Peanut, and that's a dead mid laner, and now the fight is 100% won already. And these are the kind of things a lot of Western teams are very slow to adapt to, because they're not used to these supports being so quick at engaging, so quick at catching them out. And then you overextend, you die.
Happened a few times now, it feels like. Nice little ult from Stixxay to at least get one back. Gorilla, unfortunately, had no friends to try and block that ultimate. ROX were chasing the kill they got onto Smithy. Blue now going to be donated over to Kuro, so he's going to have that mid lane pushing advantage, as it has dropped off of Hui after being taken down here. There's been a lot of push and pull here. Both these mid laners love to roam and push their lane out aggressively. And ROX, they're up 2,000 gold. It's not bad at this stage of the game. But again, CLG will continue to ramp up. It feels like ROX have strength right now, but this game's kind of slower as far as the pace goes overall. And 5-10 minutes later, CLG feels like they'll be back in the lead as far as team compositions and item goes.
Yeah, they're still about 2 items away from getting into that point where they'll take the driver's seat in terms of itemization. We see Malzahar now, though, at that 30% CDR, so Baron immunity is granted, Dragon immunity granted, and CLG just need to make it there. They need to not let anything else happen coming out of ROX, but ROX now definitely looking to make action happen.
We've got an Infernal coming up as well. Drake not up for a little while, but we've split the first 2 oceans, and we talk about the importance of this mid game that's coming up. I do like that the game is sort of saying, yeah, I agree with you. Here's an Infernal Drake to fight over as the next objective comes up.
Go team fight again, and really this meta is so much about team fighting because it's so hard to get down proper vision due to the fact that obviously there's been so many nerfs to vision, side stones right now. provide the wards basically you have at this point in the game, because your top lane is the one sitting with the warding totem and he's far away from the team. So it's just a sidestone and normally a tracker's knife from your jungler. That's the vision you can put down. That's a few wards and then you have to recall and get new ones. So it's really hard to set up vision. That's why a lot of fights always happen instead, where you can't take over a jungle. You set up for Baron, set up for Dragon, you get a ping, and then you start it.
Oh,
and
that's a good pick from Peanut. Snipe comes in, and Peanut gets his 5th kill of the game.
Yeah, and the problem there is even if Hui and Xmithy want to turn it, you can't because Kuro has QSS.
QSS is such a key item here, but also Hui getting caught out. Had summoners available, but once you get CC'd once, by composition with then a follow-up snare from a Victor, a follow-up snare from a Jhin, a potential Alistar combo, you got 5 champions on the side of ROX Tigers with CC. Land one, the second and the third one will follow.
We can see again, chasing for another kill. Afro flashes in, doesn't hit the stun. Prey did flash out of the way, but Darshan TP down as well. CLG overforced for that play, and Kuro might get mid off of it as well. Peanut gonna do him to make sure it goes down, and CLG, that was a desperate looking play. They are 5,000 gold behind now.
Yep, and First Blood Tower going over to the ROX Tigers. CLG going to be able to pick up this tower, but the problem with this tower is now that lane is going to be a dead lane for CLG. And it's also going to accelerate now the team fights that are going to be coming up in the next few moments. Dragon, 2 minutes off, and ROX probably going to look to pick up this top tower here as well.
Yeah, really the big problem was not the play, in my opinion, in the bottom lane, but just the fact that Hui had already died, so you would lose mid tower. Like, that's something that would be bad for CLG no matter what. I actually like Aphromoo trading his flash for praise, because when we have that next team fight, Aphromoo will have his ulti, and Jhin is not going to be able to run out of that ulti. If he fires it straight in the middle where Jhin is standing, that is going to connect, and then you can follow up with Poppy, Olaf, maybe even a Malzahar, and take down that Jhin, take down one of the main damage dealers. So it is important that Aphromoo traded flashes, but it has to be impactful then in the next fight. If CLG wants to go for it, they might just say, you know what, we need to wait for 3 items. We can surrender another dragon. It is so tough, though, to give away these Infernal Drakes.
Yep. And also we see the itemization on Hui with that Giant's Belt, so he does want to go obviously into Rylai's next, but the problem with this is there's a lot of percentage health damage on ROX's team comp, and with Malzahar not having any damage and Poppy being full tank, it's really all on Stixxay to make something happen.
Yeah, the fact you didn't have enough for a large rock to get some more damage when you go for Rylai's, but you have to go for Giant's Belt. It's almost the worst feeling as a mid laner, because he doesn't need more tankiness. He needs to have some damage, because they have a good front line already.
Smeb actually in there, but a good ulti actually. They will collapse onto the Gnar, bringing up very squishy, and Smeb randomly dies.
That is the weirdest decision-making I've ever seen. I don't even know what he's thinking. I wish I could come up for something for him, but I can't. Dragon was 20 seconds away. You had teleport, you had flash, you just came off a recall. Why?
Maybe he doesn't want Infernal Drake. He's not his team. I don't want this Drake. Get away from it. I'm dead.
He's up in 20 minutes. Maybe something happened. Gorilla going to turn it around. Big ult from Kuro. Takes down Afro, and Xmithy gets himself chased. Does burn. Does keep his ultimate up, sorry. So CLG now going to have to fight fair 4v4, and Smeb's up now with TP.
Yeah, so instead of it being Aphromoo catching out Prey when they traded flashes, it's Gorilla catching Aphromoo and killing him. Again, another great engage on this Alistar. It is just forcing so much.
Here we go. Darshan going to try and make it big. Gorilla does have his ultimate, and he pops it there. And they're going to try and chase one down. Smeb did TP in aggressively as well. ROX are playing with fire, but they're trying to force and really take over the game versus CLG. CLG needs something here, but ROX are not giving it away.
Everyone is so low. He has his ulti in just a few seconds. Not able to get in proper position. He has no flash. Taking a lot of damage as well in the back.
It looks like they're going to be able to raise that tier 2. Oh, but Prey did get caught. No follow-up is possible, though. Oh, and they do get the tower.
Again, flash in. Is that enough? It is! Stixxay able to take him down, and that Infernal's still on the table here.
They really don't want that Infernal. Like, that's my turn.
Maybe not. For CLG, they'll surge forward. What do they value more? Do they take that turret there? ROX did get a tier 2. Afro looks for the ulti, just misses Kuro. But Darshan wants in, he's got the flash. Who's he looking for with the wallbang? No one yet. CLG might just have to consolidate and take the Drake.
And this is one of the things with Bard. Like, look at the 2 supports in this game. If Aphromoo nails that ulti, he forces 2 flashes. He missed the ulti, he didn't force anything, is not ready for a potential fight. That means ROX can now engage and I can go in.
Caught Smeb again, he got ulted up by Mal, they take him down, CLG! starting to believe back in this game, and they will take the Infernal as well.
ROX have just handed them 3 kills now, where CLG reacted really well and caught them out. But as I said before, we've seen Gorilla be like the MVP in this game on the Alistar. Aphromo has not had the impact yet we want to see from him. So there's tons of time. One great ulti from a bot can win you the game. But we need to see more, because Gorilla so far has won that support matchup.
And so we see this Smeb just walking forward again. He's been doing this again all game, and he just gets caught out by Hui. You can't do that without QSS. So CLG making a fantastic pick, get rewarded with the Inferno Drake. And you also have to give them credit for not, losing more when ROX Tigers were trying to siege their mid-tier 2 turret. But I do think it was really greedy by ROX, and this is the end result of it.
You can see how squishy Smeb is as well. Did go for the split push and build. Rosamel into Black Cleaver. Now has a Negatron Cloak. So QSS, I really hope, is next on the menu here. Stixxay has his. He's going to be building into that third item relatively soon. Rylo's up now for Hui as well. Like CLG starting to hit some power points here. ROX on the other side, still with the gold lead, also have their 2 items kind of on. So things are relatively even. Maybe probably ROX favored, I guess, with current itemization.
2 items is definitely favored for the ROX Tigers, but the third one is where we're going to look more towards CLG. QSS came in for Stixxay very early. We keep talking about the same item, but it is such a key item in these games here. He really wants to stay safe in the backline and potentially even use it if he gets knocked up to like QSS flash away, because then he can sit there and start auto-attacking properly.
Yep. And right now, ROX Tigers is walking a pretty thin line right now. Any pick means Baron, because again, that Malzahar immunity. When you try to take Baron, your team doesn't take damage because of the Voidlings. So ROX Tigers cannot slip up. Smeb needs to stop making these mistakes that he's been making all game.
Yeah, that's again why it's so important Koro is doing well in this game and has the early defensive item here, because in order to sneak that Baron as CLG or deny enough vision and actually get control of the Baron, they need to have control of mid first, so you can move from mid to Baron. But Koro just sits there on Victor like he's done for years and years now almost, and just constant wave clear, wave clear, wave clear, wave clear, stop CLG from actually moving around these objectives. Peanut trying to set up a small gank in the bottom lane. Killing the Sean is hard, but they actually want the tower.
Yeah, they've only got that 1 outer left, but here's Peanut looking for something. Nah, back into the wall, into the cocoon. Very nice little synergy there as Darshan, who gets the ulti, kicks them both out, and he'll save his life, but maybe not the turret. CLG, though, trying to make a trade in top lane.
And ROX Tigers here reacting pretty late, honestly. Kept 3 members in the mid lane despite it already being pushed out. They will trade for bottom tower. So just an even trade, but it does give CLG again access to the top river where we have the Baron. The objective, we're gonna see a lot of fights around. ROX Tigers have learned a lot. If we look at the last game they played where they got like 4 Barons, might be another game where we go very late in these big late game team fights. Decide who gets into the quarterfinal and who goes home.
Yep. And one of the other things about that QSS on Stixxay is Peanut is going Glass Cannon Elise. He's going full magic damage. And so if Stixxay elects to go into another magic resistance item, this can get pretty brutal for the ROX Tigers, because then it's going to be all on prey.
Prey looking pretty big right now. 2 items done, actually going to the Essence Reaver. Rapid Fire Cannon build, so sticking to more late game power. We have kind of seen the game slow down a bit, so it does make sense that the teams are looking more towards the 35 to 40 minute mark as far as the game length goes, so delaying it as best they can. Darshan reasonably strong, but GA is actually the item finished up for Smeb. Will give him a second life if he gets caught, but doesn't really save him from the potential Malzahar ulti. And again, Minino is still very squishy, especially with only 1 tank item, and I say that very lightly.
He's basically trying to create a scenario where the 2 tanks on each team, so the Gnar on one side and the Poppy on the other one, maybe add in the Olaf for CLG, where the tanks will dive each backlines, and whichever tank stays alive the longest kind of protects their own squishies. And if you can win that fight where the carry hits the tank and you kill the enemy tank first, you instantly move on to the squishies and you can just one-shot them very, very quickly. So him getting GA is just to buy even more time when he does jump in and try to sit and hit who he hits Stixxay and stop them from actually getting onto Koro and Prey.
A little interesting play here by Kuro, but nothing's going to come of it.
Interesting to see mid-laners power up as well. Oh, Kuro goes in. He wants it. Smeb's here. Look for the flank. Gonna hop in. There's the passive gone. Frozen Mallet gonna help out Hui. Can he get out? He has the flash, but he gets comboed by Gorilla. Kuro commits the ultimate, and there's a kill for ROX.
Another time where Hui goes down, despite having both summoners available. Sees the combo from Gorilla, and he doesn't flash when he actually sees the headbutt, and then you do get CC'd. and then you die. So this gives full control over Baron for ROX Tigers. They're starting it. They're forcing CLG to team fight 4v5.
Yep, and one of the problems here is Smithy does not have Ghost. So he can't just run full speed ahead into that Baron pit, but hold that thought.
Doesn't have splash, can't get over either. Afro ulti's gonna go wide. Nah, there from Smith's gonna catch Darshan. That'll be another kill as Peanut claims it. Jin ulti's gonna try and catch Smithy. Pop the Ragnarok as well. ROX, rinse, repeat, straight back to Baron.
Taking any chances with any smite shenanigans yet, just instantly went for more kills. Like Smithy is around, so is Stixxay and Afro, but it's 3v5. Gorilla has no flash, but if someone gets too close, he will engage.
God, Gorilla actually finds Smithy. Stixxay caught up. This is the next one down. Yes, Kuro flashes over, but Smeb gonna try and chase him. Stixxay going massive, shuts down Smeb. And the Baron is still up for grabs here. Smithy can't get over, he's got no flash. He does take out Gorilla though, and there's another kill.
They're gonna kill them all.
The only ones left alive. Who he flashes in. Baron goes to ROX, but CLG almost wipe ROX off Summoner's Rift.
Well, let's see Prey still alive.
Oh my god, Prey's a beast. Takes down Afro, who he there to make sure everyone else stays alive, but what a mess around the Baron.
CLG completely split up here. One guy went for Elise, two guys chased for Prey, and in the end, they actually didn't even kill Peanut. He got to recall. Prey picked up another kill. Baron for ROX Tigers. Some kills for CLG, but they're 6,000 gold down.
So we see the CLG trying to go in to deny it, and honestly, ROX Tigers are indecisive here. They want the Baron. Peanut tanking all of that. Kuro gets hit and knocked up.
Now tanks the Baron as well.
Yeah, and he tanks the Baron. Stixxay manages to get away, and Stixxay was a god in this team fight. He did so much for CLG, and he kept the Baron hope alive. And then, honestly, they even almost got the steal away from Peanut.
Well, maybe caught a little again as Prey does commit the ultimate for good damage. Peanut proto belts trying to get over the wall. That does not work, if I recall correctly, but the Infernal Drake will go over to ROX. We are dead even in number of dragons, and even funnily enough, the type of drakes as well. CLG still far behind in gold, but they're getting to the point where they can maybe let their composition make up for some of that deficit. ROX, they need to kind of push a little harder. CLG maybe need to hold on for a little while longer, and could be anyone's game. ROX, though, still ahead, but for how much longer is the question?
One of the things, you just mentioned about CLG getting almost to that item point where they do have a lot more access inside of team fights, and we see, though, Hui is going for Leandri's Torment, and while this would normally be okay, Peanut, because he's going Glass Cannon, he does have some HP on his build, but it's not as efficient as if you were facing a tank Elise. So I would have liked to have seen the Void Staff.
Not there. Will help against Smeb, who's now kind of committing to the tank build. Got Aranduin's almost built up there with the Chain Vest and the Giant Spell all finished.
But the next few minutes here mean everything for CLG, because they have to be able to defend without losing inhibitors, without falling further behind, and this is not a good start.
Oh, good little QSS off. Gorilla tries to go in, but Darshan does block him with creative use of the W. ROX, though, sieging up with the Baron. This is tough for CLG.
It's very, very hard now. No flash on Stixxay, and here's an ulti from Prey.
Kuro, very nice, and there's the blow-up. Kuro takes one down. Smeb again takes the portal out. It's actually Afro's portal that he conveniently put there. And CLG, they lose the turret, falls back to this inhibitor turret.
Yeah, this is the worst that can happen for them, because now Gorilla tries to engage again.
Very nice again. Smithy forced to burn the ultimate, who he keeping them away as best he can, but Prey is doing so much damage. 6-8, he can carry the fight, but he needs to play it perfectly.
It's on the way, there's one cannon shooting as well. Everyone is back in base now for CLG, except for Stixxay, who's here to defend. Aftermo up in 12 seconds. They have to be able to defend this turret here. Don't want to open up the base for a comp with an Alistar in it who can just always force fights. Darshan with a good dodge. And now it is engaged.
Oh, it's Smithy again. Good enough from Smeb. There's the kill. Peanut takes out Smithy. 6-8, who are they firing away? Smeb is going to go down to Hui. Darshan lives once more in Afro. Ulti at the ready. Going to wind up the arm and try and get a pick. There it is. Fights Gorilla. But ROX 4-man strong going to look to defend. They can't really get in. And Gorilla burns down. It's not enough for the kill yet. And Afro can't find a line in. Does he port through? He does not.
So important for CLG. They end up just trading kills. Tower is still alive. Can buy them more time when it comes down to getting to 4 and 5 items. And when you are this far behind, but your comp does have great scaling, really it's all about keeping these structures alive, not losing inhibitors, not having super minions you have to deal with. It becomes so much easier for you just defending at these Nexus, inhib turrets.
Yep, and CLG, they're bouncing back, they're fighting back. They just get another turret. And You see this replay here, and this was a huge setup by the ROX Tigers. And they get Afromu immediately, but everyone else does manage to live. Hui cast the ultimate on Kuro, Kuro being forced to QSS away, and Malzahar was doing a lot of work this team fight. And you can just see how tanky Darshan and Xmithy are, because they're just refusing to go down. When the minion wave goes away, CLG is enabled to reset, touch that fountain, get full HP, whereas ROX, they're almost running out of fuel.
Yeah, one Ocean Drake is not enough sustain at this point to keep you healthy, so they keep going low, and when they actually do engage the fight, Styx is just left in the back, hammering away. You have a full HP Caitlyn and a full HP Malzahar, and that's what we talked about with the front line and the back line. ROX were only able to hit the front line of CLG, and then Smeb goes down very quickly. Back live, no Baron alive, no Elder Drake. Will be the next one spawning, obviously. Won't be here for quite some time. So CLG once again trying to defend, trying to survive, get another item. The more items they can get, the better.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, about the itemization, one of the things about Malzahar is he doesn't slow down. A lot of mid laners in the game, once they start getting to 4, 5, 6 items, they almost relatively fight the same exact way. Malzahar is not like that. He keeps getting more AP, he gets more penetration, he gets more utility, and he's just extremely obnoxious. And Caitlyn is one of the AD carries that is the same exact way.
Well, looks like ROX are closing in a 10,000 gold lead here as CLG are holding on to the important structures, but definitely in a big hole as far as overall gold goes. CLG will be a massive comeback if they do want to claim that spot. And Smeb again, it's a little caught out, but this
That's
time
bot lane tower
safely.
So many members top lane. That's bot lane tower going down, opening it up for ROX Tigers. One thing to highlight.
Ooh.
Actually, no.
Gorilla cleanses it off with his ultimate there. Now they're going to try and catch him. He's not that tanky even with the ultimate ticking away. And CLG get another kill. Afro, there's the ulti. Prey forced to flash, but Kuro has been caught by a teleporting Darshan. Ace in the hole's almost enough. Undertow should be very straightforward, and Xmithy just straight off of the kill. Pops around him with Kuro though. Blows one back up in response.
So huge because ROX Tigers are pushing mid lane now. End up taking a lot of damage. CLG were chasing for kills. Afro with the portal is here, so is Stixay defending the inhib.
Oh, and Prey's just trying to eat their attention.
Oh no! Stixay caught, QSS is out! Needs to save the day, Peanut Protobelt's in! That's gonna be him dominating as he takes down Caitlyn. And that's enough for ROX to break mid as well. Peanut doing what he can to keep them out, and Smeb just a little too strong. Afro gonna get caught off here. Prey probably gonna ignore him as he takes down the structures. Peanut's gonna solo him instead. Xmithy caught out there and dies to Smeb's damage, and ROX poised to force a tiebreaker versus Albus Nox Luna.
Got minions coming in. Darshan is the only man alive. He's trying to buy time. Just
dead.
like, please kill me again with the GA. Try and get Hui alive. 5 seconds on the Malzahar. Darshan buying a lot of time because the Nexus turrets didn't get hit by champions just yet, but now Prey's on it, and so is Peanut. That's one turret down.
And they are going for the game. Hui is up, and Malzahar is really scary, but
Found Peanut, but he has to cancel Darshan back in again, but Hui gets Cocoon. Peanut blows him to pieces. He's legendary with 10 kills, and ROX, they're gonna dash the North American hope. CLG bow out of the tournament, and ROX hold on to that potential first we thought they'd get. Wow.
Kuro's last stand ended up being the final nail in the coffin, and ROX Tigers were able to take that all the way.
Such an important game for ROX Tigers. Had they lost this game, they would have been out of the World Championships. Sadly for CLG, they lost the game. They are now out, and the ROX Tigers, they get to play against Albus Nox Luna again for that first place.
Yeah, and you definitely want that first seed.
Oh yes.
You really want that first seed. You just look at a lot of the other groups, B, C, and D, lots of scary contenders for first seeds in those groups, so definitely want to avoid colliding with one of them.
And you can see there, Big Sticks, they almost made another huge late game comeback pretty much for CLG with a big Caitlyn, but it wasn't enough. Peanut played out of his mind. You said it, LS, his favorite champion. He considers himself the best Elise in the world. Definitely showed a lot of that here in this game. Took over ROX. There were so many things here that went wrong for them, but that was a very clean looking game for them, given their performance in groups. Disappointing for CLG and for the North American fans, but a well-earned